Alright, so in this video of environmental science, we're going to start talking about wildlife and wildlife species that are important to North Carolina. So the benefits of wildlife to humans. There's hunting and fishing, there's viewing, there's photography, and there's environmental indicator species. So on there's different wildlife on farms. So there's wildlife management on farms. It's usually a byproduct of farming operation. So for example, you would leave crop residue, so like the corn stalks or something of that nature, standing to increase the food supply for wildlife in the area. Creating brush piles when harvesting trees provides shelter and cover and habitats for wildlife to live in, like rabbits, squirrels, things like that. In a forest setting, it's difficult to manage. Plans should be developed so that timber and wildlife can exist in populations large enough to be sustained and harvested. So, for example, when a forest is harvested, if it's gone through and you clear cut that forest, like you cut down all the trees, then there's going to be nothing left for the birds and deer to be able to create a habitat in and live there. But if you manage that forest and cut down larger, older growth trees, so you can still make money off the wood and leave in a lot of the other trees and brush piles and things like that, then you're going to allow habitat and shelter for those animals. So these are two examples. You see the farm and you see the forest land. In a wetland area, there's no area of U.S. land that is more important to wildlife than wetlands. The land is poorly drained, which is why they call it wetland. There's swamps, bogs, marshes, areas that have standing water. So wetlands are most productive wildlife management area. There's a lot of wildlife that live in wetlands, including fish, and then many different species, including reptiles and different birds and things like that. And then there's streams. These are small rivers, small running water areas. They're difficult to manage due to the continuous flow of water. They usually house fish that move along with the stream. So as an example, a wetland area on the left and then a stream on the right. Ponds and lakes, this is an area where there's standing water. This makes it easier to manage. And then there's backyards, urban wildlife, and many of you guys live in neighborhoods, and you've seen birds, butterflies, and even small mammals, maybe some squirrels, rabbits, run through your yards, and maybe even some deer. These can be attracted to feeders or even garbage in some cases. So it's important to manage your backyard and how you dispose of different household waste in order to keep a healthy wildlife habitat around your own house. So you see the pond on the left, and you see maybe possibly your backyard on the right. So when we talk about wildlife, a very important term or phrase that we talk about is carrying capacity. So it's the number of wildlife each habitat can support throughout a year. And so when you talk about carrying capacity, basically you picture as much weight as you can carry. Picture you picking up a pile of rocks, and the total number of rocks that you can carry, that's your capacity. Each habitat or area in nature has a carrying capacity. It can only support a certain number of wildlife before there's malnutrition, disease, or reduction in reproduction cycle, because there may not be enough shelter or food for those animals there. And so habitat quality decreases, it starts to decline as more wildlife treads on that area. A pond with a carrying capacity of 20 fish will decrease if 50 fish are competing for the same food, habitat, and oxygen. So the roles of hunting and fishing in wildlife management. Actually, hunting and fishing are actually two of the most important things that North Carolina does a good job of managing, allowing different seasons to open and people to control the populations through catching fish or hunting and taking those animals. So it helps maintain the proper carrying capacity, prevents overpopulation, which results in malnutrition, disease, reduction and reproduction, and which will result in decreased wildlife populations. So if we keep those numbers below the carrying capacity, then we can allow for a healthy habitat, and the wildlife themselves will not destroy those habitats. So as you see right here, you can see the graph of how carrying capacity works. And so you have a breeding stock, is this darker red at the bottom. And as the animal population line goes up, it's going to eventually hit, where there's no more, food available. It's hitting its max, as a surplus, as a most allowed right here. And as the year goes on, through the spring and summer, that's where the most animals can be able to feed, because that's where most of the food is available. And then it's going to decline as it goes in, to the fall and then back into the winter over here. So as you notice, the hunting season is over here, usually near most of mating seasons, depending on the animal. So hunted species in North Carolina, it's important to be able to identify these species. There's deer, ducks, bear, quail, doves, and rabbits, and many other species. There's songbirds, including cardinal, robin, chickadee, eastern bluebird. There's birds of prey. These include birds that, eat other smaller birds or even smaller wildlife like rabbits. So birds of prey, there's the red-tailed hawk. It's a very popular one. There's turkey and black vultures. Fish, important for freshwater fish in North Carolina. There's largemouth and smallmouth bass. There's brim, catfish, and crappie. So these show you a couple of different species of wildlife in the area of North Carolina. You have the white-tailed deer, you have mallard ducks, you have black bears, different types of birds, doves, quail, rabbits. So songbirds, there's cardinals, other types of birds as you can see right here. And so they're important species that you should be able to identify or know that they exist in North Carolina. So birds of prey, as you can see right here, you have the red-tailed hawk, you have the turkey vulture in the top, and then you have turkeys that also eat other predators, or eat prey, sorry. So, and then fish in North Carolina, you have smallmouth, largemouth bass, brim, and crappie, and then catfish are also available. So in our next video, we'll talk about the forest management and different strategies to keep our forest healthy in North Carolina.